Okay, so arch supports are a big no-no. Now with that said, often with most shoes that you buy these days, you can actually pull them out. Let's have a little look at this shoe here. Now this shoe is actually a Nike free run shoe, quite a popular running shoe for those who are interested in getting into the minimal footwear craze that's going around the world these days. So just as an example, what you can typically do is look inside the shoe, feel around, and you can pull out these inner soles. These inner soles are typically where they put the arch support these days. You have no need for that. What you can do is just pull it straight out. The shoe still works without it. Okay, and what you end up with then is a flat base to the shoe. If that is uncomfortable for whatever reason, some shoes are, what you can do is you can buy a flat inner sole from any shoe shop, and that will make it a little bit more comfortable, but try not to have them too cushioned. Get the thinnest one that you can find. So those are some of the basic terms that we need to understand when it comes to shoes. So how do we choose a healthy shoe? Well, this is not necessarily something that is easy to do these days. And in fact, I would hazard a guess that around about 90% of the shoes that you'll see on the high street are actually poorly designed, don't understand natural human biomechanics, and don't have the interests of foot health at the front of their engineering process. In fact, most of the time, it's just creating what sells, what is fashionable at the time, and buying shoes just based on what looks good is actually a recipe for disaster. So, with that said, let's look at some of the things that are very important when choosing a healthy shoe. So, just remember this one phrase: that needs to be flat, firm, flexible, and wide. Flat, firm, flexible, and wide. So what do we mean by flat? By flat, we mean there should be zero drop from the front to the back stack on the shoe. In other words, it's totally flat. So the back heel and the forefoot are on the same level. Does that make sense from an evolutionary standpoint? Absolutely. The foot, as we've said, is a piece of engineering genius. You don't need to muck around with that. Anytime you raise the back of the shoe up, what you actually end up doing is shifting the center of gravity forward. Sometimes a little bit, sometimes a lot. Doesn't matter, it's always detrimental. So when you shift the weight forward, these arches then become inefficient. The joints, the ligaments, the muscles get strained in inappropriate ways. Over time, it then leads to all sorts of problems like bunions on the inner part of the foot. We see those all the time in practice. And pain on the outside of the foot, known as dancer's foot. We see that an awful lot, particularly in middle-aged women who have spent, unfortunately, several years in high heels, putting their center of gravity and their body's weight into little joints that it shouldn't be in. So a zero stack height, very important. That's the flat part. Firm means, please, as little as cushioning as you can get. We really have no need to cushion the foot. When the foot is allowed to be flat on the floor, the arches will do all the cushioning for you. So as little cushioning as you can get away with. The next thing, as we said, is flexible. All right, a shoe should be able to twist and move in all sorts of natural directions as your foot would in normal motion throughout the day. When you get a shoe that's tight and restricted, as this poor example is, well, whilst you're getting some motion in, it's not natural motion. It's very much controlled and twisted just around the forefoot, which is not really the way that a natural foot motion would work. So flexible is very important. The toe box needs to be wide, okay? When you run, not only does the arch compress to dissipate the forces, but your toes actually splay, okay? And again, it's a very clever, genius shock absorbing mechanism that nature has built into the foot. So the foot really needs room to move in your shoe. So flat, firm, flexible, and wide. Now this shoe is pretty much about as perfect as a shoe can get. It's from a company called Vivo Barefoot. That's V-I-V-O Barefoot. They are very easy to get a hold of in the UK, and they sell a whole range of shoes from casual to smart to all sorts of different sports shoes, and they will serve your needs very, very nicely. Now they're not the cheapest things in the world, but they are probably some of the finer minimal shoes that you can get these days. I would highly recommend them. So that's something that's important to understand. Firm, flat, flexible and wide. If your shoes meet those requirements, then you're going to be doing fantastically well. A couple of other little things before we sign off here. First of all, when you first start wearing minimal shoes, be aware that your foot may not be conditioned yet to handle that well. So don't be surprised if your foot feels tired or if you get achy calves and sore Achilles tendons. Often what that means is that you've been wearing shoes with too high a stack drop over the years, and the back part of the leg has become shortened and contracted and unable to stretch as well as it should. Also, when you grip and imprison your feet in very tight shoes, the foot is unable to move, the muscles get deconditioned, and then when you start going through natural motions again, you have to rebuild the strength of those feet muscles. So in many ways, it's like the first game of the season feeling. You have to recondition it, but it's well worth it. So what I would really recommend when you first get into this is to make it a goal or a habit to spend at least 10 minutes a day being fully barefoot. No socks either, no shoes, no socks, 10 minutes walking around the house, or if you're adventurous, you can even go out into the garden. That starts the process of reconditioning the feet, and it produces a barrage of positive nerve information up to your brain to help you better control the balance of your body. So that's a really nice little tip to ease the process of transitioning into more minimalistic footwear. Last thing you want to do is go straight from wearing really thick sort of Nike Pegasus style running shoes through to a completely minimal Vivo barefoot running shoe and go for your normal run for half an hour. That will cause you problems. You must transition slowly. And with that said, what is sometimes good to do is rather than use the heavily cushioned, arch supported, high stack, high drop shoes that you'll typically see from the main shoe manufacturers, an awful lot of them these days produce a minimal running shoe or training shoe within their range. Okay, so these shoes are good interim options as you go through the transition period. So this is a Nike Free Run. This is pretty flexible. Okay, this has all sorts of ability to move, but it does have, this one has a 5mm drop, which eases, like I say, the transition. It's got a little bit of cushioning again, which eases the transitioning. It's not perfect, but it's certainly an awful lot better, more natural than the typical running shoes that Nike would make. Now, all of the shoe companies have their own versions. Here's another example from a company called New Balance. And this one is a little bit more extreme than the Nike Free Run, but notice how flexible it is. Okay, this one has a 3mm drop and it has virtually no cushioning. All right, so this would be the next level up perhaps. And again, there's many options out there. And then the highest level up really that you can get are shoes like the Vivo barefoot running shoe. Okay, incredibly flexible. You're about 1mm off the ground, that's zero drop. And these are great sort of everyday, all sort of training type shoe once your foot is ready for it. But once you pass the initial difficult stage, get a pair of these and just spend time in them. Even just walking around, doing your daily chores in shoes like these really help to strengthen your body. After a while, what you'll feel like is that you're stuck to the floor. You feel very strong and centered as the lower legs recondition in a natural, balanced and coordinated way. So I hope that's been of benefit. Check out the blog post to find out some more detailed information on different shoe companies and some of the neurology behind all of this. And importantly, some other exercises that you can do to ease your way into the barefoot lifestyle.